What is up, Soul Fam? It's Sandal from Substance Over Style, and welcome to a new video. So today I wanted to talk about, I want to do another law of attraction video. I've done these before and I've had a really good response from them, and I've been seeing this thing on Instagram going around, the Vogue challenge, and I think it's a really incredible manifestation technique that people are doing now, which is basically photoshopping themselves onto a Vogue cover. Not just photoshopping themselves, but actually doing an entire production and a photo shoot that would be, you know, as if it were for Vogue magazine, and then doing all the Photoshop to visualize yourself on a Vogue cover. And I wanted to talk about it because I have actually done this. I used the law of attraction to manifest a Vogue cover, and I got my first Vogue cover. I say first because I'm yet to get my second, but yeah, I got it a few years ago. It was for Vogue Thailand. I actually originally visualized that it would be for Vogue India, but I got Vogue Thailand, and I want to talk about how I manifested it. I've talked about this a little bit in my previous video, how I use the law of attraction to drop 2 dress sizes, where I talk a bit about, you know, my journey of awakening and how I used, you know, law of attraction is basically just a pop culture term for universal laws, which I now understand better. But I read The Secret when I was around 22, and I'd been modeling for a little while, not very long, and I've used it all throughout my career. And it was after I manifested the Vogue cover that I then was like, you know, I had a full-blown spiritual awakening just a few months before it manifested, and when it actually manifested, I was just like, wow, okay, this stuff is really, really powerful. And then I started using it to manifest other things, which I'll talk about in a different video, but, you know, things that are a lot bigger and a lot more important than, you know, just a Vogue cover, which, if you haven't manifested yet, seems like a little bit out of reach. But once you manifest it, you'll realize, you know, that the real work that we're doing on this planet is manifesting a much better, more just, more harmonious society, than just using universal laws to manifest career outcomes. But it's very powerful for that. So let's talk about it, let's get into it. And when you learn how to do it and start manifesting great things for yourself and career milestones, then you will also use it in much bigger ways as well. Okay, so the Vogue cover. So how did I manifest it? So one of the techniques that I used was, you know, what people are doing with the Vogue challenge now, where you Photoshop your face onto a Vogue cover. So that was one thing that I did, and I had a vision board, a creative visualization vision board at that time, and that was one of the things that was on it. There were other things as well which I also managed to manifest on that vision board. So that was definitely one of the things, but it's not enough on its own, because in order to manifest any outcome, you must believe that the outcome is realistic for you. If it continues to be in your mind this pipe dream that's out of reach, then it will not come into your reality. So, you know, photoshopping yourself onto the cover and seeing it, you know, and, you know, it looking good is definitely helps to solidify in your mind that this is a possible outcome that is feasible. But you also have to do the work in the real world to feel like you are worthy of that cover. So you have to close the gap between where you are now and that reality that you're trying to manifest. So when it comes to manifesting the Vogue cover, I had to do several things. One of the things was I had to look at who they were putting on the Vogue cover. So at that time, this was, you know, quite a few, when I first started to visualize this and plan for this outcome to happen, Vogue magazine was not known for being the most diverse in terms of who they were putting on the cover. In the UK, it was pretty much just, you know, very, very well-known supermodels who had done like huge campaigns, really big campaigns for high-end brands, and I didn't feel like that could ever be me, for various reasons. You know, part of the reason I started modeling a lot older than the average. Generally they start models in their teens, and I had started in my early 20s. Well, I'd started around 19, but I hadn't gone full-time until my early 20s. Secondly, I'm not as tall as the average fashion model. The average fashion model is about 5'10", and I'm only 5'8", so I felt like that was going to be something that was going to be a barrier to my success, because I didn't feel like I was going to be able to get onto high fashion runways easily. So I started looking at Asian countries, and there was a particular model who had got 2 Vogue covers for Vogue India, and she was the same height, same measurements as me. She was half Indian and half English. She was with a bigger agency than I was at that time, but we were both signed with the same agency in India. So I started to basically, this is what you have to do. You have to start to look at people who they are putting on that cover. Let's say it's maybe not even Vogue, let's say it's Forbes magazine. Who are they putting on those covers? And can you see yourself in that person? This is where we come back to the idea of cosmic mirrors. What is that person reflecting back to you? Is there something, whatever you think might be a chink in your armor, or something that you see as, you know, something that might be holding you back? Is there somebody else who has those aspects that they are putting on their cover? And you do have to study, like you'll have to look at previous, you know, in America, I think they don't really put models on the cover of US Vogue. I think they mainly put actresses, like famous Hollywood actresses and things like that. So, you know, could that be something that you could look into? Could you become an actress? So I had to start closing the gap. I was already signed with the same agency as this girl who'd got 2 Vogue India. So I was like, okay, I could see myself on the cover of Vogue India, but I don't have as many editorials as this girl. I don't have as many campaigns. So I started to put together my own productions. And this is how I became successful as a model in England. I mean, I was already signed with a decent agency. I was with a very good agency. But I wasn't getting the kind of work that I wanted to get. So in order to get the kind of work that I wanted to get, I had to have those pictures in my portfolio to get that kind of work. People, I'm going to talk about this in another video that I'm also preparing, about how to create leverage in business, because people are not going to pay you to do something unless you're already doing it, unless you can already show that you're already doing it. So don't wait for somebody to pay you and give you permission to do that thing already. Just start doing it. Start doing it for your friends. Start doing it with people you know. Start networking. So at that time, social media wasn't a really big thing, but I just started emailing creatives. And this, you know, I'm going to give you a bit of gold here. So this is a top tip that I picked up from a makeup artist who was talking about this girl that she knew who was trying to get into the music business, and she managed to get a record deal. Because she used this technique where she would pitch to different people. Like, let's say she would pitch to a magazine saying, hey, I want to do an interview with you. I'm already working with this team, this photographer, this makeup artist. I've got this designer lending clothes for the shoot, and we're going to put together this photo shoot, and I would like to publish it in your magazine and do an interview because I'm coming out with this record. So will you do an interview with me? And to everybody else, she sent the same email. To the photographer, she said, hey, I would love you to shoot me for this magazine who I'm, you know, wanting to do an interview with. And then she pitched to the designer saying, hey, I would love you to lend clothes. We're doing an interview with this magazine. This photographer's going to be shooting it. So you pitch to all these different people and say, we're doing this. You've got to create your own opportunities. And this is how I did it. I had a very, very good mentor when I started modeling, who was a model who was with my agency called Juliet Johns. I've mentioned her in previous videos. If you're watching Juliet, big love, big sis. She helped me so much, and this is what she did as well. She would just network like her life depended on it, and she would pitch to different people, and she would say to this photographer, hey, I'm working with this stylist. To this stylist, she would say, hey, I'm going to be, you know, she would just create the production. She would say, this is the idea, this is what we're doing, she would do the art direction, she would come up with a concept, you know, maybe take an inspiration image from this magazine, another inspiration from this blog, another inspiration from this person's Instagram feed, and come up with a concept and pitch to different people and say, this is what we're doing, these are the people that we have potentially interested, do you want to get on board? And I've used this technique lots of times, and I've got everybody to say, yes, we want in. And, you know, people in the industry know that that's how things work. Like, you know, sometimes certain people drop out because they have another job come in, or they just decide that they're no longer interested, you know. And you can adapt as things go along. You know, if your photographer says no, then you just go back to the designer and say, okay, that photographer is no longer interested, or he's not available anymore, we're now working with this photographer. So you just got to pitch to multiple people, put together your own productions that you think are worthy of Vogue magazine, and build your portfolio. And this is what I did. That's how I got loads of tear sheets in my book, and that's how I got signed by the agency in India, who were like one of the top agencies. I mean, by this point I'd already been modeling for 8 years, and I had a really good portfolio, and it was better than a lot, you know, I'm sorry to say, it was better than a lot of the other girls who were with my agency, because I had this girl mentoring me. Her portfolio was amazing though. Yeah, and she'd worked with a lot of, you know, she'd worked with like David LaChapelle and Rankin and Vivienne Westwood. She'd walked the runway for D Squared, despite the fact that she was only 5'6" tall, because she just had a hustle mentality, and she just knew how to network, and she knew how to portray confidence, and she had a good opinion of herself. Like, if you have negative beliefs about yourself, then that's going to be the number one thing that's going to hold you back. So you have to start to believe that you're worthy, and the way that you start to believe that you're worthy, the way that you start to retrain your subconscious mind, is by applying action in the direction of the goal that you're trying to manifest. So I got signed by the agency in India, and I was just like, okay, I'm closer to that goal now, like maybe I can actually get on this cover. And then, you know, Vogue India is also a really big deal. Like, they don't just put anybody on their cover. A lot of the time they put like Bollywood actresses, or even Hollywood actresses, or, you know, famous people from America and England, you know, not just some random fashion model who nobody knows anything about, which I was at that time. So went to India, and, you know, within a couple of weeks I started working for a lot of the big Condé Nast magazines. They started booking me, and it was off the back of my portfolio that I'd already built in London, because I'd already done the work on closing that gap. I already had all these cool tear sheets from independent submission magazines, because of this technique that I just told you about. So then, you know, in India they were like, oh, this girl's been working really well, she's doing really, you know, she's got a good portfolio, she looks different. At that time I had short hair, there were no other models in town that had short hair at that time, and I started getting booked for, I worked for Grazia, I worked for Marie Claire, I worked for Harper's Bazaar twice, I worked for Harper's Bazaar Bride twice, I worked for everybody except for Vogue. Vogue India tried to book me 3 times, but my agency every time said no, because editorials, if you don't already know, editorials don't really pay very well. So if you get booked to shoot an editorial for Vogue magazine, you're going to get, you know, at best £50 for your effort. So it's not about, you know, making a lot of money because you were in Vogue magazine. They don't pay. It's, you know, it's a platform for you to get seen, and hopefully you'll book good campaigns off the back of those tear sheets that you get. So because, you know, I wasn't going to be paid to shoot for Vogue magazine, my agency were like, oh no, she's had another job come in that day. So they would have let me shoot for them if I didn't have a job, but they were like, don't worry, Vogue India will try and book you again, they've already asked about you loads of times. And I didn't actually end up getting to shoot for Vogue India, unfortunately, but I shot for all the other magazines. So by that time I'd already closed the gap, and I was just like, right, so this is a bit more like in reach now. So then my mother agent got me a contract with a really good agency in Bangkok, and I ended up going to Bangkok with Apple Models, so I got there and, you know, booked a couple of jobs with, you know, clients that they had, a lot of Indian clients, a lot of Pakistani clients. This is how I ended up then booking jobs for some of the top designers in Pakistan, which was, you know, it's been such a beautiful homecoming for me because it's where I was born. It was through the jobs that I was booking in Bangkok. So in Bangkok I did really well, and I was just on a roll by this point, because not just because of what was happening with my career, but also all the spiritual growth that I'd been doing. I'd already had my first Kundalini awakening a few months before I came to Bangkok, so my energy channels were open. I was doing regular meditation, and I already knew that law of attraction worked by this point, because I'd manifested so many other cool things in my career, and I was getting closer to that goal. So by this point I just 100% believed that I was going to get that cover, and I didn't think that it was going to happen in Thailand. I thought that it was going to happen in India, and my plan was to go to Thailand, try that market out for a couple of months, and then go back to India. And I ended up staying in Thailand for longer than I had originally planned to, because I was working so well there. And this is the thing, like, when you actually really start to believe that this manifestation is a done deal, that, you know, you can just release attachment to the outcome because you just know that it's yours, it's just a matter of time, that's when it comes, and it will come before you even expect it. So what happened was I went to Thailand, and again, didn't think it was going to happen in Thailand, thought it was going to happen in India. So everything that was happening to me in Thailand was just a bonus. I was just having a great time. I was making money. I was booking jobs. They were just coming because I was in such a high vibrational state. I was having fun. I had met my first spiritual mentor, who was, I spoke about in previous videos, was another model called Christopher, who became my best friend. If you're watching, babe, big love. He's in Melbourne at the moment. Melbourne, Sydney? He's in Australia at the moment. I spoke to him the other day. Sorry, I'm just jumping around. But I was just so happy to be alive. And when you're manifesting things, you have got to be in that high vibrational state. That's when things will just start coming to you, when you don't even need them anymore. When you're in this place where you're feeling the lack, you're creating a vibrational separation between you and the outcome that you want to manifest. This is why techniques like meditation or dancing, ecstatic dance, listening to high vibrational music, cleansing your space, all of these techniques that you will use to raise your vibration will help you manifest more easily, because it's not law of attraction, that's just a pop culture word. It's the principle of vibration, you know, it's universal laws. It's a principle of correspondence, as within so without. So when your inside world is, you know, integrated, and when you've like healed a lot of your traumas and your limiting beliefs that are separating you from living the life of your dreams, when you've cleared those out, then your external reality will mirror back what's going on within you. So my internal reality was just really, I was buzzing, like I was, you know, sightseeing with my friends, you know, I was booking jobs, I was making money, and I started to get to a place where up until that point I'd been very competitive, and you know, being competitive can be good because it drives you to achieve things. But it's also, it kind of creates a separation between you and the thing that you're trying to manifest. When you see other people getting things that are for them, and you think that they should have been for you, that's kind of, you know, it's a separation belief. It kind of creates a separation between you and the outcome that you're trying to manifest, believing that you're separate for other people. You need to get into the state where you think, okay, that person's manifested that thing, that means it's possible for me because I'm not that different from that person. When you get into that mindset, the thing will come into your reality much quicker. And this is a regular practice that you have to do. It's not something that once you get it, it just can't, like you just get it permanently. You have to continually practice this. I forget sometimes, and I also get into, you know, separation consciousness as well, and I have to regularly practice, you know, these belief systems and these mental practices in order to manifest my best life as well. So it's a continual practice. So I got into a place where I was working really well and I was making money, and some of the people around me were not, you know. Some of the people were having a lot of problems, you know. We were all like, our group of models that we were friends with, our model familia, which was such a beautiful group, I miss them so much. A lot of people were going through some transformations where a lot of their unhealed wounds were coming to the surface. This was in 2012, and this was quite a big shift that was happening for people then. So a lot of people who still had, you know, some unhealthy belief systems and patterns in their thinking were manifesting really negative outcomes for themselves. You know, I'm not going to go too deep into it because that's their business, but we had some models who had become homeless and, you know, who had a lot of problems with theft and things like that. And we all supported each other, you know, nobody was made to, you know, suffer. I mean, they obviously had to suffer, but like, you know, nobody was out on the street, nobody was starving. We all looked after each other. Like, you know, I had a couple of people who lived with me at that time because they didn't have anywhere else to live. But I started to, instead of becoming competitive, I started to be like, I just want the best for everybody, because it doesn't help me that these people are suffering. Like, you know, I want everybody to be booking enough work so that they have money, so that we can all go out and have fun together, because that's all I want. Like, I want all of us to have an abundant life, to all get what's coming to us. I stopped being competitive around jobs. Like, if somebody else booked another job, I was like, that's great. I was happy for them, because I was like, that's for you, and now you're going to be making money so that, you know, we can all go out at the weekend together, we can all go to the islands. That's all I wanted at that time. I didn't want all the jobs for myself. I didn't have this kind of hoarder competitive mentality. I let go of that because I knew that whatever was coming to me was the right thing for me. I tapped into an abundance mindset that, you know, you really need to tap into if you want to manifest this for yourself. And that's when the manifestations just started popping off. Like, that's when I booked the TV commercial for Nissan, which I will link. If you haven't watched that, it's on my modeling work playlist. That we filmed that in South Africa. I was treated so well on that job. It was a really big money. They had literally gone to so many different cities, London, New York, Cape Town, Hong Kong, to cast the actress for that role. And then Bangkok was like the last resort because they didn't find who they wanted, and my agent sent me to that casting. And initially she didn't want, the casting director had said, you know, she sent me and another girl from my agency who was a trained actress, and they were like, oh yeah, send Christy, but don't send Sundar because she looks too Indian, and we want more of like an international, like global, like an ambiguous look. But my agent didn't listen. She was just like, if they want Christy, I'm going to send Sundar because those girls are pretty much both the same. Like, I hope Christy's not watching this because she would have got that job if I hadn't been sent for it. But when they met me, they really liked me. They called me in for a recall, and I ended up booking the job. So yeah, it was an amazing job. It was one of my favorites. I had a lot of crazy synchronicities happening on that job as well. So, you know, it was a very intense time for me spiritually and also in terms of my career. So I booked that job, and it was interesting because my agency had already sent me to meet the photographer who shoots for Vogue magazine, and they were just like, Sana, you've got this go-see with this photographer. He's the best photographer in Thailand, so make sure that you make a really, really good impression. And I was just so happy to be, you know, invited to the casting, because all the girls that they were sending to the casting were the fashion girls, not the commercial girls like me. You know, I'm a little bit smaller, a little bit more curvy, but they were sending like the tall, skinny Russian girls. And then they said, you know, he wants to see you because he's seen your portfolio and he really likes your look, so make sure you look really nice and, you know, you put your best foot forward. So I was just like, all right. I had completely released attachment to the outcome. I didn't think I was going to book anything because I'm not a tall, skinny Russian teenager. So I was just really happy to be there. And then, you know, I went over to see him, and I was like, hello, how are you? And, you know, I was in a really high vibrational state. I was very happy at that time of my life, and, you know, didn't think anything of it, didn't think he was going to book me for anything. And he was like, hi, I love your look. And I was like, I love your look, because he's a very stylish guy. This is Peanut. You know, he wears these big round glasses and he has a mohawk, and he was wearing this really cool t-shirt, and I was like, I love your look, you look amazing. And he was just like, no, I mean like your face, like. And then he starts flicking through my portfolio, and he's like, oh my god, you're so elegant. And he kept on coming back to this one photo shoot that I'd done for Grazia India, and initially I thought I was going to book the Vogue cover my first season in India, and I didn't, but I did get closer to it because that's when I booked all the Condé Nast jobs for Grazia, for Harper's Bazaar, for, you know, Marie Claire. And this one job that I'd done for Grazia was really, really nice. Like, it was a really beautiful shoot. I'll try and put the picture, I will find the picture and I'll put it in here so you can see that shoot. And he kept coming back to that and going, oh, you're so elegant, like, you know, you've got this kind of energy that's masculine and feminine at the same time. And and that was one of the reasons why I'd done so well in India that season, because Bikramjit Bose, who is now super successful in India, he was coming up at that time and starting to shoot for these magazines. He really liked my look because of my androgynous sort of energy. I had short hair, and I had that type of energy, and he recommended me to a couple of other like fashion editors and stuff like that. So very grateful to him. After that, then he gets on the phone, starts talking in Thai, and he goes, "I'm on the phone to Vogue Thailand." And I was just like, that's great, that's cool, but I don't think Vogue Thailand are going to book me. I just released, it wasn't like, and this is what I say when they say that, your thoughts create your reality, so don't think negative thoughts. It's not so much about the thought, but it's about the feeling. So even though I didn't think they were going to book me, I didn't care either way. Like, I'd released attachment to the outcome. I thought I was going to book Vogue India, not Vogue Thailand. So it's when you're like, it's not like I didn't feel deserving of it, because by this point I felt deserving, because this is what was manifesting. Like, I was just like, it's just great that he considers me good enough for Vogue Thailand, but I know that I'm going to get Vogue India, because I didn't think Vogue Thailand would want to book. Thai clients tend to prefer either white girls or Eurasian, so like some kind of East Asian mixed with European. I didn't think they would book a South Asian girl. But anyway, when I booked the Nissan job, Noam from the agency pulled me into the office. He goes, "Sandal, why do I always have a problem with you? Come into my office." He's a very scary man. Like, we got on well. Like, I'm cool with Noam, but yeah, he can be quite intimidating, especially to some of the younger girls. So I went into the office and I was a bit like, I'm in trouble. And he was just like, okay, so we have a problem. You've booked this TV commercial in South Africa, so you'll be flying there. And I was just like, oh my God, because everybody in Bangkok had gone up for that job. And I knew it was big money, and I was excited to go to South Africa. And he goes, and on the same day you have a shooting for Vogue. And I was just like, I mean, you want me to choose? Like, because I don't want to choose. And he goes, no, we don't want you to choose either. We want you to do both, but it's just a problem because, Peanut really pushed you to Vogue Thailand. Vogue Thailand didn't really want you. They're not sure about your look, but he really likes you, and so he kind of had a fight with them. And now if we tell him that you're not available, he's going to lose face, and face is like a really big deal in Southeast Asia and also other South Asia as well. Losing face is, if you make somebody lose face, then they're not going to want to be your friend anymore. So they were just like, what do we do? And Apple, who owns the agency as well, she was just like, maybe we'll get Noam to speak to him because he likes Noam, they get on well together, and just explain to him the situation and see if Vogue will change the date of the shooting. And I was just like, oh, please, Noam, like, I would just love for you to do that. But by that point, I was just like, I saw this as a sign that I was getting closer to the manifestation. So for me, it was a positive. Like, I didn't think, oh man, I was so close and now it's not going to manifest. I knew it was going to manifest. I just thought it was a matter of time, and I was just like, this is obviously not the time, and it will still happen. I'm going to go to India and it's going to manifest, and this is just a sign that my manifestation is on the way. So you got to look for signs when you're trying to manifest stuff. Like, just because something doesn't manifest right away, like when you see, if you're trying to manifest a Vogue cover, getting a message from Vogue magazine, or meeting a photographer who shoots for Vogue magazine, even if nothing happens, these are all signs that you're getting closer to the manifestation. So I thought it was a sign. And then I was talking to Christopher, my best friend and mentor. I was just like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, do you think that they're going to change the day of the shooting, or do you think they'll just replace me? And he was just like, come on babe, like, it's Vogue, like, they're not going to change the date of the shooting for anyone. They'll just replace you. And I was like, yeah, like, I thought that as well. Yeah, okay. It was just so great to be considered, and I was just so grateful. And you got to be in an attitude of gratitude is another key. So, if you're not doing your regular daily gratitude journal, start doing that, because that is an incredible practice, for healing depression. If you're, I'll talk about this in another video. because it raises your vibration, it also helps you manifest things because it gets you into the vibrational state of heart opening, you know, being in the vibrational state of just letting things come to you. These are the channels of, you know, receiving and giving. You know, this is what I learned about my Kriya course. I'm going to do more. I'm going to teach that in my live Kriya classes. Anyway, I'm digressing. So I was just like, I'm just so grateful, you know, that I was even considered. And yeah, they probably, whoops, sorry, I was talking too much. I know that that manifestation is just, you know, really close now because I got so close to it this time. So I'm just excited to go to India and manifest this outcome. And yeah, like when I was getting my flight ticket to go to South Africa, I said to my booker, you know, what's happening about Vogue? And she goes, oh yeah, don't worry, that's all been sorted out. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, you're shooting it like a week after you come back. And I was like, oh my God. And at this point, I didn't even know that it was going to be the cover. Like, I just thought that I was shooting an editorial for Vogue. So, you know, I came back from South Africa, had an amazing time, did a couple of other jobs, you know, and I was actually shooting like 2 jobs back to back before I was shooting for Vogue. And one of them was a night shoot for I think like 7-Up. It was a TV commercial for Pakistan with like a famous Pakistani actor, and it was a night shoot that was finishing at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, and then I was going straight to Koh Samui to shoot for a Russian fashion magazine, and then I was going to be shooting all day, and then I had Vogue the next day. It was really, really bad booking decision on the part of my booker because, you know, I don't think they knew that I was shooting the cover. I didn't know either. Like, if you're shooting a cover for Vogue magazine, you don't be shooting no job the previous day. Like, but they had me shooting a job the previous day. Luckily, the Russian magazine, as soon as they saw me, they cancelled me because they thought I was going to be a lot taller than what I was. And they were just like, yeah, sorry, you're a bit too, like, sexy, a bit too, you know, sexy means, like, commercial. Like, you're not skinny enough for us. So they sent me home, and I was so grateful for that because it meant that I could actually go home and get some sleep before my Vogue job. And then, you know, when I actually arrived on set on the day, I was still a little bit tired and, you know, not as I would have been if I'd had like a proper full night's sleep. But yeah, we shot for Vogue. It was a beautiful shoot. Like, it's still one of my favorite shoots. So I'll put the pictures here so you can see. And then I remember one of the last shots, the stylist said to me, Sonny, he was just like, okay, this one's for the cover, so make sure you make really beautiful face. And I was like, the cover? And then luckily, like, I went to India after this and, you know, came back to Thailand like a few weeks later to see my boyfriend, who was still living in Thailand at that time. And that was the same week that the Vogue that issue of Vogue came out. So I was able to, you know, buy the actual magazine off the shelf, and I opened it, and I didn't make the outside cover because, you know, let me be realistic about this. The outside cover for Vogue magazine, for Vogue Thailand, is reserved for, you know, really famous supermodels or Hollywood celebrities, or, you know, very A-list Thai celebrities will sometimes make that cover as well. But I got the inside cover, which is still a very, very good achievement, and it's not just like a little thin paper like it's like a proper same stock as the outside cover, so it's still a very big deal. So yeah, I just opened it and there I was, and bought several covers. You know, sent it to my agency in India, who were really proud. My agency in London, who had dropped me by this point and were not getting me any work the last time I was in London, started emailing me because they saw it on my Instagram, and they were like, we just saw that you got Vogue, can you send it to us so we can put it on the blog? And I was like, no, fuck you, you didn't get me any jobs when I was in London. And so they took it off my Instagram and put it on their blog without asking me. I'm not going to mention their names, but yeah, that was a bit of a dickhead move. But anyway, let's not focus on the negatives, because I wanted to share with you my story of how I manifested that Vogue cover. And, you know, I would have manifested more covers after that, but I went to India after that, and I really started asking myself, I realized at that point this stuff is very, very powerful. And, you know, all the reading that I've been doing on, you know, manifestation and the whole you create your reality idea was very confronting. Living in Mumbai, which, if you haven't been to Mumbai, they call it maximum city. They don't call it that for nothing, because there's a very extreme contrast between rich and poor. and I was surrounded every day by a lot of suffering and a lot of poverty and a lot of homelessness, and kids begging on the street, and people with like deformities because they work for mafia controlled begging rings. And I asked myself, what do you really want to manifest? And it wasn't another Vogue cover. Like, even though I got other covers after that, I got a cover for Harper's Bazaar Bride with Arjun Kapoor. I'll put that there. So, I can still manifest this stuff, but it's not important to me anymore. Like, so after that, I started trying to manifest a better world. And, I talked about this in my video, about dropping dress sizes, where I put the declassified CIA document, which talks about manifestation. So definitely watch that video, because I'm not going to pull it up right now. But it talks about closing the gap and how you need to do it incrementally. And depending on where you are now and what you're trying to manifest and how different they are, you need to do it very carefully, because if you try and make a huge jump between the universe that you're currently in and that parallel universe, which is maybe too different, you can dislocate. And I don't know what they mean by that, because I haven't done it. Like, I'm not going to be trying to do that. Maybe you would get stuck in some kind of weird alternate reality which has completely different outcomes than what you were trying to manifest. Like, maybe you'll lose your partner, or maybe you'll have a road traffic accident. So you have to be careful when you're using this stuff. This is why it's been hidden from humanity for such a long time, because a lot of people don't know how to use this information delicately. You have to just, if you're trying to manifest a higher salary, do it incrementally. Don't try and go from like A to Z with you don't want to fuck your whole life up, because you don't know. This is why, like I was looking into moldavite. It's a really powerful crystal for actually like accelerating your personal growth and putting you on the right path. If I haven't bought it because I researched it, and it can literally turn your life upside down, because if you're kind of not aligned with your divine blueprint, you don't want to get on that path too quickly, because you might become homeless, you might lose your partner, like you might lose all your friends just very, very suddenly. And it can just be, it's there's a reason why we manifest at a slow pace in this physical density, because it would be too much for us to handle. We might lose the plot if suddenly everything gets taken away from us very suddenly. So just be gentle and enjoy the process, because it's a beautiful unfolding. So I've definitely been using these principles to manifest a more just society, and I've seen that happen. Since I manifested that cover, I started to see a vegan takeover. Like, veganism is now way more common than it used to be. That was one of the things that I wanted to manifest, and I started applying action towards it and using my platform to promote veganism and a more compassionate lifestyle. So I've started to see that manifest. I wanted to see an end to racism and colorism, because that was so confronting when I was living in India, and the caste system and all of that stuff. So I started to see a lot of awakenings happening collectively, where people are realizing that the world that we're living in is not fair, it's not just, and starting to dismantle it. So that's what I'm trying to manifest now. But I do also use these techniques to manifest different outcomes for my career. So I wanted to manifest, I was watching the models doing the Victoria's Secret catwalk, and I was just like, oh, that's so amazing. I want to be a goddess, with these fucking angel wings. So that's Ishtar that they're representing when they walk down the runway with those angel wings. That's Ishtar, or Venus, Aphrodite. And there's a reason why that imagery is so powerful. I was just like, I want to manifest that, but not for Victoria's Secret, because I don't like that company and its ethics. They use prison slave labor, in American prison slave labor, which is pretty much just continuation of vagrancy laws that were brought about after the emancipation of African slaves in America. They pretty much still enslave people in America in the prison system, and they're the people that make Victoria's Secret underwear, so I don't really want to work for that company. I was just like, what lingerie brand do I really love? Coco de Mer is one of my favorite brands in the UK. A lot more ethical, not perfect. They still use silk and leather and stuff, but I've got some beautiful pieces from them which are made out of lace and stuff. So it's just like, I would love to do a runway show for Coco de Mer. 2 weeks later I booked that runway show. It was just a small little thing in London, but you know, a brand that I really like. Another thing that I wanted to manifest last year, I wanted to do a big beauty campaign, because that's kind of like an Olympic medal for models to have, you know, like to be the face of Estee Lauder. But I was just like, Estee Lauder are shit, like they test on animals, like I don't buy their stuff, I don't want to be the face of Estee Lauder. I was just like, I would love to do a campaign for like a nice ethical company, like maybe Hourglass Cosmetics. And then I booked the Phoenix campaign, which was using Hourglass Cosmetics. It was, you know, not the biggest contract in the world, but it was a nice campaign. And you know, maybe I will become the face of Hourglass Cosmetics. If somebody has a contact, definitely link me up. I would love to work for them, because they're, you know, all vegan. I don't think they're all vegan, they're all cruelty free, and they will be vegan soon. I think next year. I was talking to the makeup artist. So yeah, just try these techniques, let me know how you get on. I want everybody to be able to manifest, you know, their career milestones and their dream life, just like I have. I mean, it's a work in progress, because every time you manifest something, then your goals get bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, we're all works in progress. And let me know how you get on, Soul Fam. Love you all so much. Hope you enjoyed this video. Share it with anybody who you think could be helped by this information, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out, Soul Fam.
You're introduced to LSD, and unless you've taken some other drug, like for instance, like marijuana or something,